This video is going to provide an overview of the XG Core system building. And as mentioned in the previous video, there's three key ways to use XG Core. One is to validate your opinions. Number two is where you can just filter all games in the spreadsheet. For example, home teams that are showing value greater than 10%, and then you can then delve into each of those games individually before deciding whether to bet on that one. And the third process that we're about to talk about now is system building. And what we have here at Football XG Core is the full database of over 40,000 games that are included within one giant spreadsheet that will allow you to create individual systems based on historical data. That nicely links into the next sections, where I'm just going to talk about some key things to think about before we delve into an example. So the main thing is, do not just purely filter for the sake of it. What I mean by that is, you see people who just filter away, filter this, filter some odds, exclude this, exclude that, but without really explaining why they're doing it. Always justify any filter that you're applying. The key thing is there should be some rationale, some justification, or some sophisticated hypotheses of what you're trying to prove or disprove before you actually apply those filters. Next thing is, if you keep filtering and over filtering, you're going to suddenly end down to a very small sample of games. So maybe showing a great profit, but if it's only over a sample of a couple of hundred games, it's not really going to be statistically significant. In the ideal world, if you can get a sample as close to 1,000 or greater than 1,000. Next thing, which is this giant finger is pointing at, is always consider the drawdown for any given system. So as you can see on this little graph, it's actually showing nice profitability over the long run, even though there's no axes to dictate time or amounts. But the key thing is that systems can actually have big drawdowns early on. So bankroll management is absolutely key to ensure you have enough bets inside your bankroll to cover any potential drawdowns. And we'll have a separate video on bankroll management at some point, as it is absolutely crucial to ongoing profitability and is an area that most people struggle with. There's a reason why a lot of people end up blowing their banks just because they haven't managed their bankroll effectively. Finally, the golden egg. So some people may find one system, think it's great, and then that'll be purely their focus going forward. But always recommend to diversify as much as possible and not have all your eggs in one basket. But when I say diversify, make sure it is truly diversified. Hear some people having, oh yeah, I've got an over 1.5 and an over 3.5 system, but there's probably a lot of correlation, and there's a good chance if one of those systems start doing badly, the other could also do badly as well. So when I'm saying diversified, I mean potentially having one system looking at kind of home team, one system looking at away teams, one system looking at overs, one at unders. And if you really want to be diversified, potentially even have systems across different sports. But obviously we're just focusing on football here. And obviously don't spread yourself too thin over too many sports. Let's jump into the spreadsheet now and look at an example of how to build a system. So anyone who's subscribed to XG Core and has opened the historical data, this should hopefully look familiar. Even anyone who's used the upcoming games, this should hopefully look familiar as well, because it's exactly the same layout. The only difference is we have some additional information showing profitability. Zooming out, we can see there's a lot of data within this spreadsheet. Zooming back in, total, there's currently 40,274 games, and obviously as the seasons progress and we add more leagues, these numbers will only increase further. So what this top section is showing is profitability to opening odds. As you can see, home, draw, away, and over 2.5 are all showing overall losses, and this is what you would achieve if you bet on every single game. So all in all, you'll be down about 1,200 points and minus 3% if you bet on the over 2.5. And this is largely due to the bookmaker overround. So the markets are fairly efficient, And if it wasn't for the bookmaker overround, you should ideally be getting close to zero. What I'm going to quickly talk about now is an example system, which is something that someone was discussing with me over email a couple of weeks ago. They wanted to look at home teams where there is a clear favourite. So we're looking at home teams where the odds are less than 1.8. And then they were then interested in games where the over 2.5 was greater than 0, with the idea being that if there's a clear favourite, then there should be goals. So this was a system looking at over 2.5 goals. So what we can see here is that based on those two filters alone, creates a small profit of 50 points and 2% ROI. Some people may think, wow, that's rubbish, only 2%. 2% ROI is actually pretty good. Anything double digits is amazing. So some people have completely unrealistic expectations and hoping to make like 20-30% ROIs on their bets. Again, if you can find those systems, great, keep them to yourself, because they are very rare and hard to find and probably won't keep to those profits long term. I'll now quickly flip over to the far right hand side of the spreadsheet. So this section of the spreadsheet is showing exactly what was shown on the left. So as you can see, this is the 49 points profit. The difference is it's splitting out over a few more markets, and it shows the games for each individual market. And this section on the right here is showing the profits to Pinnacle close. And as mentioned before, we don't actually recommend betting to closing prices, because that is when the markets are at their absolute most efficient. And so the odds of actually beating the closing prices are very difficult. So we always recommend to get on as early as possible. But in reality, you'll be getting probably some profit somewhere between the opening price and the closing price. Delving into this in a bit more, as you can see, it's actually showing a small little profit to over 2.5 to closing prices as well, which obviously is good. But again, our focus is on getting on long before that. Now jump to this tab, which is profits to opening odds. This has a few different sections. The first section here is just showing profits by league. So again, the overall number at the bottom here will be the same, but it shows you how profitable it is to individual leagues. And then similar, scrolling across, it shows profit by season and then also profits by odds range. These numbers here can be changed as necessary to look at it from kind of smaller increments if necessary. And here on the right will show you the ranges that's actually given by the corresponding numbers here. As you can see, again, I'll focus on this over 2.5. And there is showing some reasonable profitability over the last couple of seasons, with a small loss in 2019. And then in the odds, it's actually showing all the profitability is in this range of 2 to 2.5. And this goes into a nice little lesson that what a lot of people will do now is go, oh great, well I can just eliminate the over 2.5. And then we can look at which leagues are actually losing a lot of the money. So we go, okay, Premier League's losing 8 points, Brazil 11 points. So let's go eliminate those. So they go back here, they'll go back to the filters, eliminate Brazil, Premier League, and then in the odds, we'll change this to between, do greater than 2 and less than 2.5. And then they'll refresh. They'll go, wow, that's better. Getting a 5% ROI now, which you may think, okay, nothing wrong with that. But it goes back to the key point we were saying before. Always justify why you're actually applying a filter. If you are excluding a league, make sure you've got good justification for doing it. This also brings on to another key point, that what the filter applied here was some big assumption that was made that if the odds are greater than 2, it was showing value in the over 2.5. But I strongly disagree with that. Just because something is greater than a certain number doesn't mean it should be value. Value should be judged on an individual game. Something could be 1.01 and still be value if it's pretty much a dead cert. The good thing about what we have here at Football XG is this amazing little section here of value versus Poisson, which is where we've modeled every single game and highlighted where we believe there is value in the individual odds. So this can show that even if the odds are less than 2, there could still be value. So what we can do here is apply a simple filter of looking greater than 0, and then suddenly increasing our returns from 5% to 9%. But in reality, we don't really need this filter at all because, as I said, I don't believe in just filtering based on a certain number. Removing that. Obviously, we're back down quite a bit, but we're down at overall 4% ROI based on the original filter, which was showing a 2% ROI. Some people may still like to apply additional odds filters. Again, I'm not saying you cannot do that. I'm just saying make sure you've got some good rationale and justification of why you want to apply certain odds filters as necessary. I've left this filter here because this isn't an odds filter for profit. This was just an odds filter to try and highlight where there is a clear home favorite in the game, and that was the main system we were looking at. Hopefully this gives people a bit of a flavor of how to use this spreadsheet to try and filter games, and ultimately what you're trying to do is maximize the ROI while still having a reasonable number of games here in the filter. And then once you've got a system that you're comfortable with, then obviously each time we publish upcoming games, you can apply these filters and then decide whether or not you want to place bets on those individual games. Again, this is just one example. You can obviously spend more time applying filters to the full range of fields that we have in the core. So everything from scoring first, conceding first, looking at various form stats or goal stats, XG stats, or stats across first and second half. So again, the possibilities are endless, and the key point we're trying to do is teach you to create your own systems and strategies so you're not purely relying on others, and hopefully you can become profitable by yourself long term. If anyone wants more information about XG Core and how to subscribe, please visit us at footballxg.com/members. If you have any questions, you can contact us via the website or at Twitter at football_xg.